welcome back to The Well. I'm so glad that you could join me. This teaching is going to be part 2 in the series of Guardians, where we've been talking about the design and function of a woman. In the first teaching, we looked at the term Ezer Kenegdo, which is a Hebrew term which has been translated a help me, which we now know is a help that saves or rescues or a strong power, and it also means it corresponds to or complements man. And so today we have another term, and it's called OIKOUROS. Once again, please forgive my pronunciation. I have no idea how to pronounce Hebrew, Greek, or really any other language but English or Spanish. So again, OIKOUROS is a Greek term, and we find it only once in the Bible. So we're going to jump straight into the main verse, and I'll get into all the background of how this started, and you'll see where we're going with it. So let's read Titus chapter 2, verse 5. And because this verse has been so misinterpreted, I want to show you the different interpretations of the phrase, which in Greek is OIKOUROS. And so in the NIV version, the verse says, and it's talking about teaching women, and so it says, to be self-controlled and pure. Then it says to be busy at home, to be kind, and to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God. So specifically where that phrase was used, to be busy at home, I want to give you a different version. This is going to be the New Living Translation. And it says, to work in their homes. Okay. The New King James Version says, homemakers. The King James Version says, keepers at home. Which, if you're wondering, that's going to be my favorite translation. And that's going to be the one that really opened my eyes to understanding this whole teaching. But I just also wanted to mention that in the Spanish version, in the Reina Valera 1960, it says cuidadosas de su casa. So if you know Spanish, cuidadosas is like careful and being careful of their home. Like careful of the things that have to do with their home. That's how I look at it. So once again, we have this one verse, and I want to break down what the phrase was in Greek. And it's comprised of two parts. The first part is oikos. And oikos has to do with a house, a dwelling, or by comparison, it can also mean a household or a family. And the second term, oros, it says it's a keeper, a watcher, or a guardian. That's what it refers to. And as an example, it says one who has the oversight and responsibility for something. Thus, the basic significance of OIKOUROS is the following. You can say housekeeper, but unfortunately, nowadays when you say housekeeper, it's equivalent to maid. It's like housekeeper is maid, someone who cleans your house. That's why I never noticed the term in Spanish. I never really noticed it when I read it like housekeeper, but when I read the King James and it said keeper of the house, that totally got my attention. And that's what we see was the original intention. It says that it's one who watches over a household and family, seeing to it that all members are cared for and all things are maintained for and in good order. And so if we look back to the phrase of being careful of their home, being busy at home, working in the home, I don't know about you, but to me, it just seems like you're telling me to like keep my house organized, keep my fridge stacked with groceries, like make sure everything is in order. And it goes so much beyond the idea of keeping your house physically in order. And OIKOUROS, it meant watching or keeping the house. And at the time that this word was used, it was used also in reference to a watchdog. It was the same term used for a watchdog, one who guarded the house. And then it says that it was specifically also used in praise of a good wife. And because this term has so many misinterpretations, I did a little more research. And in an article called Keepers of the Home by Kyle Pope, he shares some insights into what he feels that this scripture can teach us. And I agree, and I want to share the following 5 points. He says that number 1, women are given the responsibility to manage and watch over the affairs of the household. Number 2, this management is to be conducted in subjection and obedience to the husband. And this is something that we see coming from Ephesians 5:23, that women would be obedient to their husbands. And it says that the husband is the head of the wife, as also Christ is the head of the church. Point number 3, he says this is a serious responsibility. And I did not create this part, but he said they are the watchdogs of the family, or the guardians of the children. Just pause for a second here. We saw how in Ezer Kenegdo, the woman is like a help that rescues and saves, and specifically we saw Abigail saving Nabal. But now we move to beyond helping, saving, rescuing even your husband. It's your job as a woman to guard and keep watch of your household. And specifically here, this teaching is going to focus on your children. And let's see point number 4. This job that women have, it demands industry, activity, and hard work. They are the workers at home. So again, it's like, well, how did you see that originally? Hopefully you're seeing it differently now. And number 5, whatever demands may be placed upon her by her circumstances, she must not surrender her responsibility as keeper of the house. And so what we're trying to say is, and I mentioned this briefly in the last teaching, that I don't plan to quit my job, but God did put that burden of the hard work on the man. And no matter what other responsibilities I have as a woman, I cannot surrender my function, my role, my responsibility. I cannot give it up as keeper of my home. But just to keep this brief, I did a lot of research into what are sheepdogs, or what they call livestock guardian dogs. And these dogs are the ones that take care of the sheep. And I just wanted to share a quote that I think is quite interesting that we can apply to women, even though it's written about a sheepdog. So this is what some of the research says about a sheepdog. An ideal guardian sheepdog is intelligent, alert, and confident. It must act independently and react instinctively while protecting the flock. It will investigate and aggressively confront intruders. But above all, it must be attentive to sheep and not harm them. An investigative and aggressive dog is of little effect if it will not stay near its flock. The dog should be physically sound and of good conformation. And if you didn't capture all of that, it's just the part where it says is intelligent, alert, and confident. I feel like that explains Abigail perfectly from the first teaching we did. It said she was intelligent. And when it says alert, she acted quickly, confident. She took what she needed and she went to David. And so we see here that not only that description, but I read a little more, and it says there are 3 main qualities in a sheepdog. And those 3 qualities are the following. Number 1, they're reliable. It says that they do not leave the flock and they are not aggressive with the flock. Number 2, they're attentive, aware of surroundings and any threat of predators. Number 3, they are protecting. They dare to drive away predators and even fight with them. And I mean, can you picture this? A predator to sheep, typically we see it would be a wolf. What really does a dog, the strongest dog or the most intelligent dog, have against a wolf? I mean, I would put my money on the wolf. And since we're talking about it, I know you know the comparison of a wolf. The enemy, he's often described as a wolf in sheep's clothes. So are false prophets, false teachers. But the point is here that as a woman, the Bible's telling me it's my job to guard my children. It's my job to guard my home. And I am like that sheepdog guarding the sheep. I read that livestock guardian dogs, they seldom kill predators. Instead, with their aggressive behaviors, they tend to condition predators to seek unguarded prey. For instance, it says that where these sheepdogs have been established for a long time and where wolves are also in that region where they have coexisted, it says that older, more experienced wolves seem to know where these sheepdogs, where these watchdogs are, and they leave their flocks alone. ironically, sheep don't always like the presence of the sheepdog. And I bring this particularly for those parents who are doing a good job protecting their sheep, looking out, watching, being vigilant, being alert, being assertive, being aggressive when a predator seems to be near. But those sheep, they may not appreciate it until a wolf appears. This is particularly relevant with adolescents. And I just briefly want to share that when I was in high school, when I was 15 years old, I remember, I don't know what the topic or assignment was, but I wrote a paper about my mom, and I called her a warden, because it's just the only term I understood to say that this woman is watching me at all times. I mean, I had no idea what the Bible said. I had no idea the role that God had put on women to watch out, but I knew that this woman had her eye on me. And I remember even as I got a little older and I saw other parents who were Christian, and I was like, why is my mom, like, she never gives up. She never gave up. Even when I didn't want to walk in the ways of God, I remember I would come home late, 1 o'clock in the morning, like, okay, maybe my mom's asleep. I would ask my other friends, what do your parents say when you come in late? And they'd be like, they're asleep. And I'm like, okay, maybe my mom will be asleep. And when I would get home, she was just standing right at the top of the stairs, just like, does this woman even sleep? And I remember those moments, and I would say, I knew it was like a showdown. Either me or her. Like, one of us was going to have to give up, because that wasn't going to work. And honestly, thank you, Mom. It was me. I gave up, and I gave in to the ways of God, and she never gave up on me. So maybe you may not have kids, maybe you have little kids. But I'll tell you right now, if you have some challenging teenagers, even tweens, don't give up. That's their goal. Their goal is to wear you down. They're like, this woman or this man is going to give up eventually. But you know what? You got to be stronger than them. As women, remember, we are in charge to be the keepers of the home, to be the guardians of that household, to make sure that we can sniff out any sign of danger. And that's why God gave us special ability called discernment. And the world might say it's a sixth sense, but it's discernment. And we know things. And the Bible tells us to test the spirits, and we should be able to identify friends of our children, like what are places they should or should not go. And these are things that I need to consider as a mother, and not just as a mother, but as an aunt, as a friend, as a youth counselor. I need to be alert as to what's happening with my sheep. In part 3, we're going to go into a little more detail about a wise woman and how she built her house. And I want to talk to you about that woman in Proverbs 31 that we all hear so much about, but yet we don't always know specifically what she's like. So I hope you can come back and hear the next part 3 of the series of Guardians. God bless you. Bye.